What is going on, everybody? Hello there, and welcome to episode 2, Electric Boogaloo of Galactic TableTalk. This is the Star Wars themed podcast in conjunction with. Can you turn your fucking TV down? Good start. Yeah. This is the Star Wars themed podcast in relationship with the Gamers Lair gaming community. A Star Wars podcast for all sorts of Star Wars fans, young, old, new, veteran, or if you just want to get into Star Wars, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Loggers109. Joining me, as per usual, is the man who is caught up in a lifelike setting of Hoth, I would probably say, which is quite weird because he's probably more used to being in the state that he's in. Is probably more used to conditions that are similar to Tatooine. It's Apollo. Hello, how you doing, my man?
Hey, what is up, guys? It's your boy Apollo, number one Call of Duty God with Galactic Players. No, Gamers Lair Galactic TableTalk. All right, we got a lot to discuss today, but let's keep going. Let's get into my boy WarWolf.
Yeah. You've pretty much done the introduction for me. I was literally just going to do sort of like a Street Fighter 2. Here comes a new challenger sort of vibe. But hey ho. He was missing from the debut episode, but we managed to get a hold of him and his ham sandwich internet. It's WarWolf Gaming. Wolf, what is going on, my man? Welcome to the Galactic TableTalk. How are you doing?
Hello.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Like my Wi-Fi keeps like spiking up, going down, spiking up, going down.
Hey, this is why it's good to have two
it's
at least.
The ham sandwich. It strikes again.
Hey, this is why it's good to have two. So just in case one of us goes down, we can still keep talking.
Indeedy. Yeah. Well, it's a specific topic for episode 2. We're going to be talking about our least favorite characters. But before that, I thought I'd kick off the podcast with a couple of little news notes that have come out since last time we did an edition. I'm just basically calling it news alert, but it's not that important. Republic Commando. Did either of you two ever play the original Republic Commando before?
No, I actually didn't even know that existed. Shame on me.
I was aware of it, but I never really played it. I think that was sort of like around about the time that I was playing like the Knights of the Old Republic games. So it was literally a Star Wars game that sort of passed me by. But yeah, I forget the name of the studio that's doing I don't want to say a remaster for it, but it's just sort of like, making it
for optimizing it for the PS5 and PS4.
Optimizing it for the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch.
Let's see. Was it Republic Commandos?
Republic Commando, yeah. I know because they've done they've done like updates for Jedi Outcast, Jedi Academy. I know they did like Star Wars Racer.
So
I think
the developer.
And I think they did. Yeah, but there's like a specific company that did them.
Let's see. There's the Unreal Engine. And...
Aspyr, ASPYR. It's it's.
Oh yeah, I see it.
It was developed by LucasArts during the.
Aspyr made it.
Yeah. So Aspyr.
My phone says the developer was LucasArts.
Yeah. So the developer is LucasArts, so is the publisher. But this time around, I'm pretty sure LucasArts is gonna still do the same thing. But I guess Aspyr is gonna be the main one publishing the game this time around.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically how they word it on Wikipedia. It's an enhanced port of the game by Aspyr. So yeah, that's due for release on April the 6th. I might be interested in actually checking that out because I never actually played the original. It's quite an interesting concept.
Yeah, I'm
I beat
interested.
the game once on PC, but having it on PS4 and being able to stream it is gonna be fun. That's the fun part for me.
Exactly. Yeah. And I like to think that the announcement sort of coincides with the announcement of the debut streaming dates, would we call it? Because you can't really say release date nowadays. You know, with sort of like the streaming.
Well, it kind of is really. I mean, it kind of is release date.
Kind of. Yeah.
No. Yeah. But yeah, it's the Bad Batch has got a debut date. It's going to be Star Wars Day on May the 4th, which I find. Yeah, it's quite. Yeah, it's quite poetic, given that it was. Well, it'll pretty much be a year to the day when the Bad Batch debuts. It was the finale of season 7 of the Clone Wars.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's quite a poetic date for it to start. Yeah, it does. And considering where the Bad Batch is going to be in the time frame that it's going to be, it sort of fits the narrative really.
Pretty much.
Like.
Yeah.
Pretty much. It's like Clone Wars season 7 expanded, I guess. Probably in the Clone Wars season 8, if you really want to get into it.
I'm just glad we'll be able to see like the transition from the clones to the stormtroopers, maybe in between during that time.
I don't think we're gonna see that, but it's gonna be more the different how they act under the role of the Emperor this time around. Yeah. Because stormtroopers, I don't think they start coming around. Stormtroopers, I don't think they start coming around to like 5 years after Order 66.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's around about the time of, well, before the time of Rebels, really. But,
it's way before the Rebels.
Or maybe that will be a transition that we'll get in sort of like the Obi-Wan series.
Or maybe we'll see like the clone troopers and stormtrooper armor then.
Yeah, that should maybe like a few years after Order 66, you should start seeing, the mixture of clone troopers and stormtroopers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've also got to put into context as well the Cassian Andor series. That's pre-original trilogy, so there might be trying to find the right words here. There might be sort of like room for sort of like a transition period there as well. I just don't know.
I think
it's keeping the cards very close to their chest.
I think it's going to be more towards that period where the rebels are starting to finally
form, maybe.
Yeah, rebels are starting to, how can I say it? Act or no, not organically,
get a foothold, really.
Organize.
Yeah, more organized. There we go. Yeah. There you go. More organized, basically. Because really, at first they were extremists.
Yeah, very much so. If you believe the words of the Empire.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, technically, like the Republic is bad. Obviously, like so is the Empire, but everyone, because like just like us, we view America as the good guy, but other countries view us as the bad guy. So same thing with the Empire, and you saw that in the Mandalorian. Like those dudes need a fuel for their base, and like they were happy when Mando and Mayfield came back, and and they saved the day.
Spoilers.
Well,
follow.
But you're happy to see the Empire, basically.
Yeah, I never thought the Empire would come save their asses for once.
I know, for real. I never thought I'd be happy to see the Empire.
So anyway, we've touched on sort of like the couple of news bits that have happened in between podcasts. Let's get on to the topic of today's episode, where we're going to be talking about characters. Now, there are certain characters that are near and dear to our hearts, certain characters that we can't really stand the sight if we're going off the terminology of other people. I'm looking at you, Apollo, with your making of this logo. But yeah, it's basically what I'm trying to do with pretty much every podcast is towards the end of the episode, always like setting homework in inverted commas of just having us go away, do something like Star Wars related, whether it be research or which will come into effect in sort of like later podcasts, like actually watching some stuff for future episodes. I also asked like Apollo and Wolf to go away and make a list of basically your top 5 favorite and your top 5 least favorite characters in all of Star Wars. Now, if you just give me a second to change the color scheme up a little bit. Could have been done in a more transitional way.
Yeah.
Let's get the negative out of the way first. We'll start talking about our top 5 least favorite characters. I'm going to go first with this. This is now. Actually, I should probably say, bit of a disclaimer beforehand. This is literally just our personal opinion. It's not matter of fact.
Yeah.
Well, in most aspects, really. So any of your picks, any of the picks that we have, any of the picks that you have, if you agree, disagree with it, then that's absolutely fine. It's just our personal opinion. Wouldn't take it too much to heart. My number one pick, I'd say.
Okay, hold on. Before we start there, this is just me personally. I don't hate these characters. I'll say them. I can't say I hate these characters.
It's just the wording that you made for the form nail says different.
I know what I said, but I mean, I don't exactly hate the characters because I love everyone from Star Wars. It's just.
I would agree with that to some extent, but as you're going to see with my number one pick,
okay, go ahead.
I don't technically agree. So my number one pick, and this is the only character from my list that I absolutely hate as a character, and it is Vice Admiral Holdo from The Last Jedi.
Fuck that
bitch. I've only ever seen The Last Jedi once, and an occurring theme that always popped up to me when I was watching this movie is me just looking at Vice Admiral Holdo as like, you're meant to be a good guy, and yet you're being suspicious as fuck, and you're being a gigantic bitch to one of the characters that was built up quite nicely in the last movie, and you're making him seem inferior. And then when he leads a mutiny on your ship, he's in the wrong because it's all part of a plan that was formulated that you couldn't let this, die-hard resistance totally against the First Order in on because of reason. I didn't get it. I didn't get it watching then. I'm sure when we get on to doing the sequel trilogy, I still won't fucking get it. But I hate this character. I with a burning fucking passion. Just like the character itself. I've got nothing against the actress herself because it's literally how the character's been written.
Yeah.
Much like a lot of the characters that are going to be brought up with this. But yeah, and through that, and the fact that her suspicious shit isn't called upon, and Poe gets reprimanded for calling her out on a bullshit, whereas it's insinuated that she's in the right. I'm just there going, no. And yeah, I've always had a bad taste in my mouth for this particular character, and that's why she's not only my number one, but the one non-favorite or least favorite character on my list that I really don't like.
I can see that. I can see why. I probably should put her on my list because she was irritating, just like y'all seen Harry Potter. So the bitch from episode 5, I can't remember her.
It's Dolores Umbridge.
There we go. Fuck her. Just she is legit the same person as she is, and she was pissing me off the whole the whole movie.
Yeah, but I think there's a difference to that though. Mm-hmm. There is a difference to that, and that is the Dolores Umbridge character from the Harry Potter series was intended that way, and she was intended to be a bad guy. I don't necessarily think that Holdo was meant to give off this impression of being a manipulative bitch, basically.
Yeah. But that's how everyone portrayed her as, though.
Yeah.
For the most part. Yeah.
But I think that's down to Ryan Johnson's writing, and to sort of bring up like the concerns that we had that like apparently there's a like development deal, which means he's going to be getting like a future trilogy. Apparently, it's not set in stone. But and do you know what? I was tempted. I realized like we're doing least favorite characters. I was tempted to put in Ryan Johnson on my list, even though he's not an actual character.
Shit, if I could, I put fucking Ryan Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy on there. Oh, I don't know if you know about this, but Kathleen Kennedy apparently has her own trilogy with Brie Larson. Apparently.
Oh god.
Well, I ain't freaking watching it. I ain't watching it. No. There was a bit with sort of like Ryan Johnson. I can't remember whether it was when he was developing. It was when he was developing The Last Jedi or not. But he was like doing an interview with someone, and he always like says like, with my movies, I would rather make a movie that's going to be polarizing to people, as in like half of people are going to think it's really good, half of people are going to think it's really shit, rather than like making a good movie. Yeah, and I'm like there just sort of like red flag right there. It's like okay, if you want to do that with sort of like your little side projects, and fuck up your intended project, that's fine. You can't be doing that with Star Wars. Yeah. You can't be doing that with Star Wars.
No, you can't.
And it really it's baffling. It's really baffling.
I think you also said you can't give fans fan service. So like, I mean, obviously.
Clearly, this man doesn't watch any Clone Wars. He doesn't watch any Rebels. He doesn't watch any of the Mandalorian.
I was like, you legit ruined everything.
I tell you what, there's fucking plenty of fan service done in all those fucking series, and it's awesome. Yeah, fucking great at times.
Being real, if it wasn't for the Mandalorian, no one would be watching Star Wars. I think the fandom was already pissed off.
Oh yeah. So, and if it, like I keep saying, there's a reason why I call freaking Daddy Dave Filoni the freaking second coming of George Lucas. Just sort of, it's very similar to sort of like this is a completely off the cuff reference, but it's very much like how with my soccer team, Liverpool Football Club. They brought in this this mad German called Jurgen Klopp. And his very first interview on becoming manager of Liverpool Football Club was basically going, we have to change from doubters to believers. And that's basically what Dave Filoni did. He changed all the Star Wars fans that were doubting any kind of sort of like, future for Star Wars, and has made A, some great fucking television, and B, restored fucking, hope and faith in Star Wars projects in the future.
Hope again.
Yeah, we get a little bit off topic. So that's my number one pick.
Yeah.
And as I said, something else I probably should have pointed out as well. These aren't sort of like, this is my absolute number one. Because I literally had to sort of like, chop and check. Because there are picks where a lot of us have sort of like agreed. So I've tried and sort of like bunch them into sort of like, the same category. So we're not repeating ourselves. But we're going to be moving on to what I've got as Apollo's first pick. And it's quite an interesting one, actually. Because I've got, is your first pick...
He wasn't my first pick. My first pick was actually Cat Bane. But
your first pick was Cad Bane.
Yeah, Cad Bane.
Oh, hang on a minute.
Oh, okay. I mean,
actually, do you know what? Do you know what? That's too much editing on my part.
Don't worry about it because I can still talk about it. Yeah, as I know, Count Dooku, he's a fucking coward, pretty much. Like, you can see it in all of his movies. He's a coward, and honestly, I didn't. I probably maybe should have switched him with Cad Bane, but like I don't see much to him other than like it's just himself. Well, basically, this is all the Sith. They're selfish, and he just cares about himself pretty much. And I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. I just don't care. I don't care for Count Dooku. I really don't.
Yeah,
even though it's important, but I just don't care for him. But then again, yeah, I don't know.
Well, there's a couple of lists. There's a couple of picks on my my least favorite list that I don't necessarily. Well, I'm of the same thing. It's like I don't necessarily hate the character, but I just sort of like I don't feel anything for them. Yeah. I feel sort of like they need to be lower on sort of like the importance scale than they actually are. Really.
Yeah.
Wolf, have you got anything to sort of like say with that particular pick? I mean, what are your thoughts on Dooku?
I really don't have any thoughts on it. He is correct that Dooku is a coward, but on episode 3, actually, he did lose that fight. So that does. He got both his arms chopped off. All right, by a raging teenager.
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
A horny ass teenager.
Yep.
Yeah.
Star Wars. The prequels is basically a horny teenager who didn't get a promotion.
Horny, creepy teenager with an equally creepy wife.
Yeah, a horny teenager who did not get promoted at work.
Yep. Who didn't reach the rank of master.
Pretty much.
In so many memes. So many memes.
Yeah.
Okay. Paulo, I'm going to go with one of your picks next. Mm-hmm. And as I say, this isn't technically your number one, but it's what sort of like slotted in at the time. One of your picks is Jar Jar Binks.
You mean Wolf? You said Apollo. Your one of your picks.
Let's just move on. It's live podcasting. Give me a break. Wolf, your first pick is Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar Binks. He's not one of the best characters, but
no,
because this man basically started the Clone Wars. And from that scene in episode 2, yeah. And he just gave Chancellor all the power that he needs to cause the war to happen. Give him the money and the emergency power. And plus, Jar Jar Binks is Sith Lord.
I don't think that's canon. I don't think it's canon.
I actually have sort of like a sick desire to actually see that.
I would love to see that too. Like, he'd be the most incompetent Sith Lord.
I just love to see it as something, instead of Kylo Ren it being fucking like Darth Jar Jar, and you just sort of like have Ben Solo.
Misa killed that Jedi.
And I just think that his character is like a big dumb oaf or buffoon or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I guess what George Lucas was going for was for that character, but I don't know. I don't think Jar Jar deserved any major roles in the other two that much.
No.
And he was also a Jedi.
Clone Wars. Yeah.
For an episode in the Clone Wars.
Yeah. Actually, in a comic book as well. He was confused as a Jedi. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, nice to know that.
Well, he's been confused as a Jedi and then sort of like as a counselor, which I think technically he probably was. But yeah, I always think of sort of like Jar Jar Binks as just sort of like there's only really like one story arc in like say the Clone Wars that I actually quite like with Jar Jar, and it's I think it's either season 5 or season 6 where like him and Mace Windu go and sort of like
that's season
team up against like
six.
Season
That was on the
six.
Is that season 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd like team up to like take out Mother Talzin. That's probably like the only story arc that I really enjoyed with Jar Jar, because other than then, like you say, you said literally bumbling. If there was ever a way of sort of like, you know, doing an intergalactic Three Stooges movie, Jar Jar would literally be at the top of the potential cast members.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, I have no real argument with that.
Yeah,
no real argument with that at all. Right, so pick number 2. I feel that we need sort of like an NFL draft, sort of like jingle going on in the background for some reason. But I'm basically, but our second picks, I've basically clubbed together because it's the exact same character. So I just thought I'd bunch it all together and sort of like include it in one particular pick. So our collective second pick, it's another sequel trilogy character. It's Rey.
Oh, yeah.
Do you guys sort of like have your say? Because I'd sort of like, I in a way have got sort of like an analogy for Rey that may come across as if I'm playing like devil's advocate. So I mean, if you two want to sort of like have at it.
All right, so I'll talk about Rey first. Like, Rey shouldn't be the chosen one. It's like, honestly, I just blame the writing in general. Like, I don't. If the writing was better, maybe I'd change my mind about a bunch of these sequel characters. But Rey definitely needs to be written better. Like her character had potential to be really, really great, and her being
I think you could probably say that about. Yeah, I think you could say that about a lot of the characters in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah,
that they could have been so much better. The writing been better itself.
Yeah, and the fact that she's automatically she can pick a fight with Kylo Ren and survive it like she did without any training. Plus, I mean, I don't see much. Like, it's just the way she was written that I was just like, what? Like, they ruined her character. I think they had an opportunity to make it great, but they didn't. Being like, I would have liked. I don't know what would have been better for her lineage, like being the daughter of Palpatine or being the daughter of Luke, or whoever. Like, her being connected to someone. I don't know. Like, it was just like, what, you know? It's kind of hard to explain. It's just the way she's written, basically. And and then going on to the final episode of them, like, Rey actually was actually pretty cool because, you know, she got to see herself, kind of like Luke with himself, where he fought himself in episode 5. Similar, you know, I kind of like that because Rey really could have gone to the dark side, and for a moment, it would have been cool if she did, because it would have been cool to see her on the dark side, and but how can I say it? But it would have been cool to see on the dark side, and it was also really cool that, you know, she took down that ship in episode 9, you know, just striking it down with lightning, but that was all we got. I just don't like the way the character's written, you know. So that's all I got to say. And she's too OP for no training, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wolf, you got anything else to really add before I go all day advocate?
don't know. I just don't like the character of Rey because, like Apollo said, she had no training at the beginning of episode 7 or in episode 8 as well, where she basically just fought Kylo Ren in episode 7 and survived amazingly somehow. Air quotes. But yeah, the way she was written and the way they thought up the character, it just made it sound like she was like supposed to have the Force from the beginning, basically. Unlike with Luke, where in episode 4 he learned about it. Episode 5 he trained, and episode 6 he mastered it a little bit. Where with Rey, they just instantly just gave her Force powers. Nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's all I gotta say. That's my little tangent.
Yeah.
There's nothing to the character.
With the benefit of hindsight, no, not really. Because the thing is, you look at who she's been written for to replace, and that being Luke Skywalker. And you look at the journey that Luke Skywalker had from episode 4 right the way through to episode 6.
Yeah.
And there was a progression there, and the movies showed you the progression.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things that I will always hate with Rise of Skywalker is, the movie starts out and she's all of a sudden sort of like a pro. Well, like she's doing some like Jedi training, but it's on her own, and it's hinted but not expressively told that she's been doing it for months, and it's just sort of like
actually. She's not doing it on her own. It's Leia training her. Actually.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, like when you're comparing Leia training Rey to Yoda training Luke, there's more of sort of like it's more of being shown. It's more being shown this sort of like this Jedi training, and there was sort of like bits and pieces, sort of like Luke training Rey in The Last Jedi. But they were few and far between because it was the majority of that movie was just centered around sort of like Luke Skywalker being a mopey shit. And I use this analogy sort of like sparingly, and it's quite a long-winded analogy. So on top of like all my interests, like in the past, I used to be like a huge wrestling fan. Not so much anymore because like wrestling's pretty fucking dire dog shit at the moment. But I would say that Rey is the Roman Reigns of the Star Wars universe. Now, obviously, there has to be some explanation involved in this.
Please.
Roman Reigns is like, I mean, he sort of like comes from the same lineage that Dwayne The Rock Johnson's from. So it's an established sort of like wrestling lineage. There's he's like 6'4", 6'5", hunk of a fucking Samoan man. Like, he's fucking, there's stuff that you can do with him. But he was automatically like plucked as being the next successor for John Cena. And a lot like Rey, there was no real sort of like, there was no real like explanation. There was no story. There was no sort of like, this is why sort of like, he's getting the torch passed to him. It was literally just a case of, he's the next guy. Deal with it, fan. And a lot like the Star Wars community, the WWE community was very much of a case of, well, no, not really. I mean, you have to give us more than sort of like, he's the next guy. He's the next like top person in the company. It's like, you've got to have like, and I think this is what Rey suffers with, and it's literally just a case of like most of it is a case of bad writing, because if you look at let's like take the fight that she has with Kylo at the end of episode 7, take that out. There was a sort of like quite a natural progression with her character throughout the entirety of the film, and then you just feel that like if that same sort of like steady progression went on with the next 2 movies, I don't think she would be as well, I say hated. I don't think she would have as much conflict of sort of like, people liking her and not liking her as there is. But it's literally just the fact of like, she's taken over for the mantle of Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker has just had this like great big massive backstory that has been, told throughout the original trilogy, and with this character, it was literally just a case of, she's been through all of this. It's like, take our word for it. It was like, well, could you not like show us this? I mean, you've had like 2, maybe 3 movies to sort of like show this progression. You gotta, no, we're not. It's like she's the next heir apparent to Luke Skywalker. Get over it. And it's like, well, no, and that's why she's just. Like, as I say, there are people out there that do like the character.
Yeah.
And, fair enough. But you have to do more than being sort of like, this is the person that's taken over for the mantle of Luke Skywalker. Because I would literally just be the case of, okay, prove that you're worthy of, taking that mantle over. And the fact is, the movies didn't do a good job. They didn't. In my personal opinion. And the last little bit I'll say on Rey, and something that is very soured on me, is the fact that she sort of like willingly takes up the Skywalker mantle, like the Skywalker name, I should say, because she comes from sort of like a lineage that has basically ruined the Skywalker family when you think about it.
So
it's a little bit.
Lineage,
I just realized that. I was like, both names are ruined. Both names are ruined. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and I mean,
I'm
I'm
never
always
take that
I'm always
Skywalker name anymore, or the Palpatine name anymore. It'll always be Solo.
Yeah. Yes, very true, very true. As I say, like, it was a character that had good potential, was ultimately ruined by shitty writing.
Pretty much.
So yeah, that was our collective second pick. I'm going to give you guys the floor for your number 3 pick, because it's another pick that you two have pretty much agreed on, and that is the character of
Hey.
Finn.
All right. Wolf, you want to go first?
Nah, after you, Apollo. Let you go
All right.
first.
Too easy. All right. So, come on, Disney, you don't fucked up. I'll say this. You don't fucked up a great opportunity. I'll be real.
Yeah.
You had a black man, a minority, as a stormtrooper, which I was like, fuck yes, let's go. I want to see what's up. But you have the opportunity to promote, that minorities, they're actually great in this world. And to put them on the big screen, such as Star Wars, was amazing. But, you fucked up the character. That's just the reality. You fucked up the character. And, like he's force sensitive. And I'm pretty sure he is, just the way the whole sequels went. I'm pretty sure he is force sensitive. And you ruined the opportunity. It was like he held his own against Kylo Ren, and when he fought against Kylo Ren, it seemed organic. Like, obviously he got his ass kicked, and it showed that he got his ass kicked. But he held up his own just for a little bit. It wasn't like Rey, where she went all in. And he had the opportunity to, go on with his backstory and how he was as a stormtrooper, in which that first scene of him in episode 7, kind of like just him seeing the blood and how gruesome how gruesome being a stormtrooper is. That was awesome to see. But like I said, they had an opportunity to build off his character, him being force sensitive, him being a stormtrooper. They had the opportunity, and they just absolutely failed to, especially in episode 8, where they ruined almost every character pretty much. Episode 8, it was like he was non-existent pretty much. Like, he was there.
All that mattered to him in episode 8 was finding Rey. That was it.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And like I said, it was like, what happened to the character that I actually wanted to see more of? And they just failed to do it in episode 8, especially. Episode 9, they kind of built off, him being force sensitive, And he's like, I was like, I know she's alive because I can feel it. And they had the opportunity, but they didn't go anymore with it. So who knows?
No.
I'm pretty sure he's force sensitive, but who knows?
Oh no, it's been confirmed in, you know, the best storytellers for the Rise of Skywalkers, that being internet news posts, that you know there's like a particular bit in sort of like the Rise of Skywalker where he wants to tell Rey something but he never gets the chance to.
Yeah,
that was because like I remember seeing the article for it. This is what Finn wanted to say to Rey when she was just sort of like, Rey, I've got something to tell you. It was like, why couldn't you have just told that in the fucking movie?
Yeah.
Why am I waiting for seeing the fucking news article for something that could have easily just gone into the fucking film in the first place?
Yeah. They don't fucked it up.
As you say, mate, it's just sort of like a missed fucking opportunity. Because like I always look at The Force Awakens. You know, when people call it sort of like, you know, it's just basically you know, A New Hope, but with sort of like, you know, similar characters. It's like, yes, it does follow the same structure as A New Hope.
Yes.
But they built up 3 new characters. They built up Rey, they built up Poe, and they built up Finn.
Yep.
And I'd say of the 3 that were established in The Force Awakens, Finn was the best character that was established. Because it gave like a very good reason why someone would defect from the First Order to the Resistance. Because, you know, I imagine sort of like the First Order was very much like the or was it the same way that stormtroopers were recruited in the Empire?
No, stormtroopers were actually recruited because the Empire was actually the good guys in the galaxy. So they were just
and then sort of like
enlisted.
Yeah, because like wasn't the First Order sort of like them
kidnapped children from
First
birth,
Order kidnapped
basically.
people
from a very early age, and then just sort of like radicalized them and stuff.
Yeah.
So, as you say, there's, and like you say, Apollo, like the fight that Finn has with Kylo, it's more believable. It's more believable of him being able to stand toe to toe with Kylo, even though Kylo's had like years of training from you know, Luke Skywalker, but he's not like a fully trained. He wasn't a fully trained Jedi when when it all turned to shit.
Yeah,
you know, he's got that sort of like that military background of, you know, being a former foot soldier, so there is more sort of like believability of him being able to hold his own for a lot longer than like Rey had any right to.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it was sort of like a good building block to take up for the other 2 films. Yeah. And then from that point onwards, he basically had nothing.
Pretty much.
Nothing. And I just think it's such a shame because I think John Boyega did such a great job with the very little that he had to go with.
Yeah.
The very little that he had to go with. And it's sad to see. It's sad to see when he's in sort of like interviews, you know, after the trilogy's been released, of, you know, him being rightfully very, very fucking bitter with the process. Very fucking bitter, and I think anyone would be.
I would too. And the fact that like Disney and a bunch of media outlets, they promote, you know, SJW bullshit all the time, but you failed to do it when it came time to do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like you want to promote a gay, black, whatever, but you don't want to promote a black man, a strong black man becoming an awesome character and failed to develop on it. You had a great female. You had a female who had the opportunity to become a great character, and you failed on it. And you had a Mexican who was a great character, and you failed to build up on him. So,
it's just they just failed to build up the characters in those movies, like 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, yes, they had such an opportunity, but
they fucked it up.
They completely fucked it up.
Yes.
Which is the story of the course. Right, okay. I'm going to move along to my third pick. Unless you've got anything to add on, Wolf at all, or have we pretty much covered everything?
Just said everything.
Okay. Okay, that's not coming from my end. That's fine. Right, I'm going to go with my third pick.
Yep.
It's another sequel trilogy pick. And I've gone with General Hux.
Who the fuck is he? I forgot.
Exactly. He's basically the First Order's answer to Grand Moff Tarkin. So he's basically like the ginger admiral. The reason why I put him on this list is, like, look at his predecessors: Grand Moff Tarkin, Admiral Piet, Grand Admiral Thrawn. I mean, you could even sort of like put, I don't know, like Admiral Peter or like, you know, Colonel Stark or General Veers in that category. All these like established leadership in the Empire, and you can believe they've got like a leadership in the Empire because they have this commanding presence whenever they're on screen. And then I just sort of like I look at General Hux, and he's just sort of like a whiny just a whiny little bitch. And you're just sort of like, I don't take you seriously as a general. As like, and then like towards like the end of like the sequel trilogy, it's like towards the Rise of Skywalker, he's basically revealed as being sort of like a mole for the Resistance inside the First Order, which just comes out of nowhere. And you just think, fucking Rebels, a children's TV show, did a mole in the enemy camp better than you better than the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, they did. Way better.
Yeah, they did.
Because fucking Agent Callus was a fucking great antagonist.
He was a good
great antagonist. And then it's just and then there's there's sort of like a natural progression to that character, you know, like being revealed as being a mole.
Yeah, he saw Zeb went back to his family basically, and like when he got rescued, he was basically his family, and he was happy. And then when Krause got picked up, no one knew he was gone. No one cared.
Yeah,
like no one gave a shit.
No,
it's like carry on.
A lot like Holdo, it's just sort of like, you know, it's seen as this, oh my god, this great like sacrifice or this great death, and you just sat there thinking, oh, I felt, how can it be sort of like, you know, this great sacrifice or death when I felt absolutely nothing for the fucking character?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and as I say, he doesn't have a commanding presence. He just comes across as being like a whiny, entitled little bitch. And as I say, I was sort of like, I was glad when he was killed off because I fought
and from just a blaster as well.
Nothing
just went, boop.
Yeah. They did like this. They did like the Grand Admiral Thrawn thing of just sort of like going, "Oh, I've known you were a mole all the time." Poop. It's like, you fucking idiot. So yeah, that's my third pick. Yeah. That is my third pick. I'm gonna go with Wolf for this next pick. As soon as I saw this, I was just sort of like a case of, yes, this will make like good debate. You've gone with what's technically a sequel trilogy character.
Oh,
but well, I mean, I guess you could call it like a sequel trilogy character, given the way he's portrayed in this movie.
Yeah.
I'll get my 2 cents in a moment. Y'all continue.
The sequel trilogy, The Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker, is like the weakest version of Luke Skywalker I've ever seen. And I've been through Legends lore. And that Luke Skywalker in Legends is a lot stronger than The Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker. Hands fucking down. And it's just the way they did him in that movie is just not right. And with the way Mark Hamill said, like, this Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi is not my Luke Skywalker. When he said that.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming when he said that, he was talking about the Legends. Luke Skywalker during that time.
Yeah, well, he's always quoted as saying, like, this Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, he just pretended that he was playing a completely different character. Because the stuff that Luke Skywalker did in that movie, when you've got fucking Mark Hamill, who's played the character for fucking years, and he's calling Rian Johnson out on all this, of just sort of like, Luke going into exile for like 15 years or whatever. And Mark Hamill's like calling the director out, sort of like, Luke would go into exile, but he'd probably only go for like a week, maybe 2, and then he'd be fucking back like that. He wouldn't fucking abandon his sister. He wouldn't abandon his family just because, he was being a mopey little
one
bastard.
tragic incident. But he wouldn't abandon them that long. He would have only been gone for a week, abandoned it for a week, and then come back as a stronger person to handle that situation.
Because in theory, sort of like, renders his character development. I mean, like, you've got to think sort of like Luke in The Last Jedi, sort of like giving into like his anger when his sister is being sort of like threatened with potentially being turned to the dark side. He gives into his anger and his hate, and then sort of like realizing what he's fucking done, he's willing to sort of like he throws his lightsaber at Palpatine, just sort of like going, "I'm a Jedi like my father before me," and it just sort of like it posed the fact of sort of like he would rather sacrifice himself than give in to these like these dark side tendencies. And I mean, you could, again, we rag on about Rian Johnson, but you can fucking tell that he wasn't a fan of Star Wars because he just basically looked at this character. I don't know whether he looked at all sort of like, the work that's been done before and just went, don't care.
Goodbye.
there's no character development here. I'm going to make my own version of you. And just I can't blame Mark Hamill. I mean, it's sad. Yeah. It's sad when he's sort of like going, "Oh, I just pretended that I was playing a completely different character," because it's Luke fucking Skywalker. I mean, bar like being the I'd say like it's the most it is the most high profile thing that he's done. First only to doing the voice acting for the Joker in the animated series of the Batman animated series. I mean, those are the two sort of like instances I know of what he's well known for.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's sad. It's sad that he got to, he had to go to that kind of mindset. But at the same time, you can't really fucking blame him.
Yeah.
You cannot fucking blame him.
Yeah.
Okay, Apollo, you had your 2 cents to give.
You got anything to say, Apollo? Yeah.
How can a character, the most after return, Rise of Sky? No, I'm sorry, not Rise. No, after Return of the Jedi, he becomes the most powerful Jedi ever, and all that goes out the door.
Yeah.
How the hell are you going to do that to a character that brought hope for the millions of fans of the world, that gave hope to, and a person that people watched for over 50 years, and you fucked this character up on one episode just because you say it's not about Luke Skywalker or about the Skywalkers when your legacy is the Skywalkers. That's disrespectful. That's disrespectful.
Well, that's the way it's always been, perceived, that there was this entire sequel trilogy. It's like there's no respect to there's no respect to Star Wars at all, at all.
Nope.
Really.
Yeah.
Sad, man. Sad, but he had a very, very redeeming scene, and the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian. Because I always, well, actually, we'll talk about that when we get to favorite characters. I'm going to go along with my number 4 pick. Might be a little bit of a controversial one, this, but this is a character that I have failed to sort of like connect with for so long, for my entire time, sort of like watching Star Wars, and I've gone with C-3PO.
Whoa!
Whoa! Shots fired! Oh no!
I gotta hear this. Go ahead.
C-3PO is the most neurotic, whining, self-centered bastard, I'd argue, in the fucking Star Wars universe. He constantly complains nothing is good enough for him. He's fucking self-entitled because he knows fucking 6 million languages. And I'll take this. In fact, I'll fucking take this example. I'll take this example for you. Episode 5, you know, when they arrive on Bespin, and he sort of like he goes off wandering in a completely unknown city, so selfish, and he fucking goes trespassing. Technically, gets rightfully blown away, and is going to be sort of like fed into this great big massive furnace until the great Chewbacca comes along and fucking saves him. And then when they get sort of like, you know, thrown in the prison cell.
You want to know who shot him, though? You want to know who shot him?
Was it Han?
No. It was Boba Fett. Boba Fett shot C-3PO in Cloud City. That's who shot him.
Serves him right. Serves him right for fucking going off on his own. Trespassing in an unknown city.
Yeah.
Trespassing on private property. No, but... So when Chewie gets sort of like, you know, tossed in this fucking cell with the remnants of C-3PO, Chewbacca, out of the goodness of his heart, is trying to put his friend back together. And what is the first thing that fucking 3PO does? 3PO does when he fucking, you know, he's switched back on. He's like, oh, I'm on the wrong way round, you stupid, great big massive hairball. Now, if I were Chewbacca, I would have switched him off, which he does. I would have disassembled him, taken the box, and fucking chucked his remnants in the fucking furnace. Cheeky shit. Cheeky shit. So, yeah, it's like that. And then, you know, sort of like going, oh, you know, the chances of this coming off are like 5,075,001. And it's just sort of like, will you shut up? That's why in sort of like, you know, The Rise of Skywalker, when they're sort of like going, when they go, 3PO, what are you doing? It's like, oh, I'm just saying goodbye to my friends. It's like, I felt nothing. I was just sort of like, are you being terminated?
Damn.
Good. Seriously, I have no time. I have no fucking time for him. And
really?
Like, I always love it when fucking you know, R2 is just sort of like, you know, being purposefully annoying to piss him off. Like that's just sort of like that's a crumb of comfort to me. That is a crumb of comfort to me because I can't stand him. I can't fucking stand him. And like, you know, particularly when you have the likes of sort of like, I'd argue that sort of like, you know, K2SO in Rogue One is, you know, he has like he has a lot of like characteristics of C-3PO, but it's done in sort of like a more charming and personable way. Whereas I think like C-3PO, yeah, exactly. It's like he's a smart ass, but he's got like personality while he's doing it. Whereas, as I say, 3PO is just a great big massive moan in my eyes. Anyway, told you it might have been a controversial pick.
That's pretty ballsy to say, though.
Possibly.
I'm waiting till you see mine. Wait till we get to mine.
Oh no!
Oh no!
No!
Should we get on to your... Apollo, should we get on to your fourth pick?
Yeah, let's go.
So your fourth pick is one of the bounty hunters that was featured quite prominently in the Clone Wars.
Oh.
You have gone with Cad Bane,
All right.
which is rather interesting.
All right, so let me tell you, Cad Bane, he's a slimy little bitch, and I just want him dead. It's like he is that villain where it's like, fucking get him, but he always makes it out because Palpatine is also a slimy little bitch, but he never, like I said, he always makes it out, regardless how fucked he gets. He somehow just makes it out alive. I'm just like, kill him already. I want him dead. And yeah.
Oh, yeah, by the way, there's a deleted, unedited scene of Boba Fett and Cad Bane going at each other.
I've heard.
Cad Bane dies. Yeah.
I wanted to see that.
That's how Boba Fett got the dent in his helmet.
Rest
assured.
Yeah.
He gets
Basically, I just hate him because he's a slimy little bitch, and I want him dead. I don't hate it. Like, he's one of those characters I like him because he's
You
cool.
kind of hate, but you kind of hate a lot, but love a little bit.
Yeah,
you love to hate.
Yeah, I love to hate.
I think there's. Excuse me. I think there's, I don't think there's anything. I don't think specifically a villain that is you love to hate. I don't think that's necessarily. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It just depends whether it's the right love to hate, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Sort of like, you sort of like, you love them, you love to hate them so much because they're like a really great villain, or you love to hate them because you just sort of like, I realize you're trying to get yourself over sort of like this bad guy villain, but I can't fucking stand you. I can't fucking stand you. Yeah. Which is sort of like my mindset C-3PO, except he's a good guy.
All right. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say about Cad Bane. It's just a slimy little bitch. And yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Right, we're nearly at the end of the negativity road. So I'm going to go. So fifth and final pick of least favorite characters. So I'm going to go. I'm going to start this time. Well, I'm going to go this time around, and I've gone with something that's like a little bit out of left field. Okay. Again, you probably. I mean, if you didn't like the C-3PO pick, you probably went with like this particular pick.
No.
I have gone from seasons. I've gone from season 7 of the Clone Wars. Trace and Rafa Martez.
Okay, I can.
We kind of get it.
Yeah.
Who were featured in like a 4.
They're pretty bad characters. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, I should probably give some context. So season 7 is like, it's split up into like a 4-episode arc that features the Bad Batch quite a lot, because they're obviously being set up for their own TV show. There was obviously sort of like the Siege of Mandalore and the beginning of Order 66, which was the last third of season 7, and then right in the middle was this particular story arc that featured a beloved character of Star Wars that has come into fruition in the past decade or so, that being Ahsoka Tano. And she was basically attached to these two sisters who was like, I don't know, like trade dealers or trade smugglers or something or other.
Spice smugglers?
Something like that. But they were they were just such nothing characters that I swear to God, there was like, I can't remember whether it was, I'm pretty sure it was like episode 3. I'm pretty certain I got like 5 minutes into that like 3rd episode and I just ended up skipping it because, I mean, you take those two characters out and swap them with any different kind of characters, and they leave no lasting impression.
Pretty much.
They leave no lasting.
I didn't even watch that arc. I just watched the first. Watched the first episode of that arc, and that was it. I didn't even finish it.
Well, to be honest with you, you were probably better watching like the 4th episode of that arc only, because that's sort of like got plot that feeds into, you know, the season ending or like the show ending arc. But yeah, they're just, and plus as well, they're so likable, and they're so snippy, and they're so fucking, you know, conceited, and just I couldn't stand. I think it was like I couldn't stand the older sister. I think it was Rafa. I couldn't stand her more because she was just basically like a great big massive moaning bitch the entire time. And at least with sort of like the younger sister, there was sort of like, you know, there was a connection and a bit of chemistry with Ahsoka. But even then, it wasn't.
She had common sense.
But from what I've gleaned, thus going forward, unless she's going to tie in with sort of like the Ahsoka series, they've not. You know, there was no sort of like, you know, case of, oh yeah, they're going to feature here or they're going to feature there. They were literally just there for those last couple of episodes, and then they were immediately dropped.
How about this?
They were basically just filler characters, basically.
Yeah. How about this? Maybe the Bad Batch.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because Bad Batch is in that time
maybe
period.
Not. Well, I think. Well, I mean, what we gleaned from like the trailer with the Bad Batch, it seems like Fennec Shand, you know, from The Mandalorian. It's been hinted at through the trailer that she might feature. But as I say, it's not been confirmed.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but we literally saw her being arrested and the clothes she was wearing. So she's definitely going to be in the episode in the series.
Yeah.
They're also on Coruscant.
Too. Yeah. I mean, like bar their actual sort of like place in the depths of Coruscant being, you know, the being the perennial garage for Ahsoka's hoverbike. There's no lasting implications of sort of like, you know, oh, she was important because they were important because of this. I mean, they weren't really. And as I say, that entire arc made me skip an episode that featured Ahsoka Tano. It's like you. So yeah, I really don't like them as characters. I really don't like them as characters. And yeah. If you don't believe me, go back and watch the fucking 4-episode arc and tell me that you sort of like, yeah, this could have been sort of like, you know, wrapped up in 2 episodes, maybe 3 at a push, but not 4. You know, I don't want to be around these people for 4 fucking episodes.
4's a little much.
Yeah, I was bored.
Yeah, like, which is, to be honest with you, is a trait that the Clone Wars does suffer from quite a lot, and I'm sure we will. Yeah. I'm sure we will talk about it when we get to reviewing it. So yeah, that was my 5th pick, and I'm going to go to your guys' last pick because it's a joint pick. It seems like we're shitting. It seems like we're shitting on the sequel trilogy, but they do not help themselves.
We hate it. We hate it a lot. Okay.
You two have,
I don't hate it.
You two have gone with. You two have gone with Kylo Ren.
Yes. Wolf, you want to go first?
Sure.
Go for it, bro.
Oh boy. Kylo Ren is basically a worse version of Anakin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, he is a whiny ass bitch that didn't go to the right school. Pretty much.
Pretty much.
Right. Yeah, in the words I can describe it, but I'm pretty sure Paul could probably describe it better than I can.
Mine's a little more
So
colorful.
I'm gonna let Paulo just take over. That's all I gotta say. Take it away.
Right.
Speak my mind.
Basically, Kylo Ren is Luke Skywalker at the beginning of A New Hope, being a whiny little bitch who didn't get enough attention from Daddy and Mommy. So he turned to Daddy Snoke and said, "I will get you to the dark side," and that's basically how he got into the dark side. He had daddy issues, even though Daddy was there. Yeah, he's mainly just a whiny little bitch, and he's a wannabe Darth Vader, but no one gives a shit about him, and even the Emperor doesn't give a shit about him. He's like, I'm quick to.
Don't.
Emperor really doesn't. He's like, I got a daughter. I was like, I will take your life just so I can become immortal, and he is willing to take his own daughter's life to become immortal. So it's like, no one gives a shit about you, Kylo.
Or granddaughter.
But yeah,
you never know
that's what I mean.
Granddaughter.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It just seems such a shame. It seems such a shame because, like, in the context of sort of like, you know, Star Wars Legends, like Ben Solo is built up as being sort of like, you know, this great character, like basically the you know, the Padawan under Luke.
Yeah.
And you know, I've not read any Legends, I've not read any comics, any of the books, but there seems to be like this overarching, you know, kinship or like, you know, relationship between Ben Solo and Luke that you actually sort of like, there's a believability factor to it. Whereas, and I agree with you guys to sort of like an extent of him being a crap version of Vader, a crap version of Vader, and I think that's something that they backtracked on quite a fair bit after Force Awakens.
Yeah,
because you notice sort of like how very little he uses sort of like, you know, the helmet that he's his specified helmet in the rest of the sequel trilogy after The Force Awakens.
Yeah. So like another thing,
it just seems to be a case of sort of like, you know, oh, okay, yeah, this is coming across as being like a low rent version of Vader. Let's try and change that up a little bit.
This is the discount version of Vader. Here you go, Kylo Ren. Take a look at that.
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
So the thing like the difference between the Empire and the First Order, no one takes the First Order seriously until it's time. And even then, the First Order, they don't respect Kylo Ren either. Like when Darth Vader walked into the room, it was like, oh fuck. Yes, sir, I got you.
Yeah.
When Kylo Ren walked into the room, it was like, all right, this bratty kid is. I have to listen to this bratty ass kid. Nah, no wonder why I was like, no one gave it. Like everyone listened to the officers, but no one listened to Kylo Ren, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you notice as well, the only sort of like legitimacy that the First Order get is when Palpatine is introduced.
Yeah,
it's just sort of like he's a remnant from the Empire. It's just sort of like that's the only way you're able to get any sort of credibility.
Yeah,
it's a bit sad.
Yeah,
it is a bit sad.
Even with Starkiller, they still didn't give Ren any respect.
No, he didn't.
No.
No.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick.
Okay, mate, not a problem. So that was our least favorite lists. As I say, they're just on the ticker tape at the bottom. If you just give me 2 seconds, just to change a little color coding, because we're going to get on some more positive stuff. Stuff next. So yeah, we are going to be talking about our top 5 favorite characters. Obviously, we'll just sort of we'll wait for Apollo to get back because the number one pick I've got in sort of like my order is a joint pick between you and Apollo.
Of course.
I'm just going to go into the chat because I've just realised I've neglected the chat ever since I started.
Yeah. What's up, chat? How's it going?
You've been keeping.
Me and Paul have been getting into an argument with Doggy about this Grogu and Star Wars and all that bullshit.
Yeah. What's up, chat? If you have any questions about your least favorite characters, if you got a least favorite character, let us know who it is. Just write in the comment section.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot to. You took the words right out of my mouth, Apollo. Like, if you've got any sort of like picks for your favorite characters, or you've got like least favorite characters, be sure to put them. Be sure to put them in the chat, and we'll sort of like debate whether we agree or whether we disagree with you. Yeah, could be either or. So I changed up the color theme because we need to get into more like positive, positive thoughts.
I was like, we got on some negativity for the last hour.
Yeah, for the last hour we've been quite negative on Star Wars, rightfully so. Yeah. But there's the reason why we love Star Wars is because of a lot of the reasons are going to be coming up here. I'm going to start up with yours two's first pick. As I say, might not technically be your very first pick, but it's what I decided to go with because, as I say, a lot of what Apollo's put, a lot of what Wolf's put, and a couple of picks that I've put sort of match up. So I've tried to sort of like condense them down into particular sections, so we're not going over ground that's already been tread. So the very first pick that I've got for you two is Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
All right.
So Anakin Skywalker, he's like the first character I ever saw. So like as soon as you see the yellow the yellow fighter coming out in episode 3 and seeing his face, I was like instantly I was already hooked on seeing that character in episode 3. And obviously I didn't know who he was anyway, just because I was new to the series. And watching him in episode 3 made me fall in love super quick. And it was just as a kid, I was like, this kid I actually like. And he has a blue lightsaber and he's really cool. And then going into his transition, even better. But no, like I said, I love this character. And then watching this character from the beginning, from episode 1 to episode 3, you'd love him even more, and you understand. And watching everything else, like the Clone Wars and everything, you'll understand who he is even more, and you fall in love with the character even more. And reality is, he's a bratty teenager, horny teenager at that. And
who has a senator wife that's older than him.
Yeah,
by the way, is older than him.
Yep.
I was like, but homeboy had a rough life growing up. He saw the first person who believed in him die. He had
in his arms.
Yeah. Well, not in his arms, but like the first person who believed in him died.
Oh yeah. You're talking about
Yeah, I'm talking about Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon, yeah.
The first person believed in him dies. Mother was in slavery. They're both in slavery. The mother dies. Anakin is pretty realistic. Like, he goes through life, and it's understandable why he is the way he is, just because of his upbringing, and no one gives a shit about him. So I was like, he turned to the person who believed him in the most, and obviously he wanted to save the person he loves, and well, the person that was out to get him got him because he manipulated him easily. So I was like, Anakin is pretty relatable because like you're just growing up trying to figure out who you are, and
so much when you're not his love, by the way.
Yeah, and when you're not accepted, you really do stupid shit, or you're not loved back, you do stupid shit, and that's basically what happened. Except this one changed the whole galaxy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, Wolf, this is one of your picks. Is there anything that you want to elaborate on?
Okay. I like the way they built up his character in the Clone Wars series as well. Which I thought they did a pretty good job on that. Having him be like a master to a Padawan, basically. And his character development from episode 2 all the way to episode 3, it just changed his attitude entirely from those two. Because it's going through the years of the Clone Wars. Yeah. But like Apollo basically just covered all the other bases.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, like, I didn't really think too much of the Anakin Skywalker character during the prequels, because I think one of the things that sort of hampered the prequels a little bit was the fact that he was a bit bratty, the fact he was a bit, sort of like, throw his toys out the pram. But as Wolf has said, sort of like, seeing a lot more of his backstory through the Clone Wars and seeing the journey that he's like really, been on, and seeing sort of like a lot of the decisions that ultimately led to him being manipulated, led to him sort of like, turning to the dark side. Decisions that he might not ultimately have wanted to do, but he had to do in order to sort of like save the the one person that he truly loved. And then sort of like the point of no return, and Anakin's just sort of like a case of going, well, there's not a lot I can do because I'm literally at the point of no return and there's no going back for me, which is referenced quite a lot in terms of the original trilogy. Sort of like, when Luke's there trying to, get his father to, because he still sees like the light of Anakin Skywalker in Darth Vader. And, even when Vader's there, just sort of like going, it's too late for me, there's I reached the point of no return and there was no going back for me. Yeah. And, just seeing the story come full circle by the end of Return of the Jedi, it's an interesting little character. And also, if you want more sort of context of why Anakin turned out the way he turned out, there's like a behind the scenes series that Disney Plus did of like behind the scenes of The Mandalorian, and I think it's specifically episode 2. There's like it's like a roundtable discussion of like Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and all the directors who directed in the first season of The Mandalorian. And there's a great little section, sort of, I think it's like the last 6 or 7 minutes, where Dave Filoni is just basically explaining the importance of one of my picks of a character that's coming up in a little bit. Sort of like how important he was to sort of like, setting Anakin Skywalker on the road that he ended up going on. And I think it's just sort of like, it's when you look at Anakin Skywalker, it really is like a tale of sort of like tragedy, of like real tragedy. And the more you watch the Clone Wars and the more this character's expanded upon, you sort of like the more heartbreaking it is when what happens.
What's going to happen?
Yeah. I think that's what makes him such an effective character. So there's it's a little bit of a weird one, this next one, because it's my first pick, and it's technically another pick of Apollo's. So as I say, this is a case of just sort of like, rolling them all into one complete section. But this is my like top level first pick, and that is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh man, like, I mean, we talked about it sort of at the start of the very first episode that we did, watching the prequel trilogies, and the character that I most grew towards in terms of sort of like the prequel trilogies was Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was cool. It was cool to see sort of like the transition of sort of like, you know, him going from Padawan to sort of like to Jedi Master to ultimately being
member of the Jedi Council.
A member of the Jedi Council. I like seeing that progression in the prequels. And then again, it's sort of like, you know, expanded upon in the Clone Wars. A lot of his backstory going down. You know, there's hints at sort of like him possibly having a romantic interest with the ruler of Mandalore at that time. And just sort of like him going through all these emotions. And then obviously sort of like encountering another member of his past, this time from the prequel trilogy, and seeing that sort of like progression there as well, and seeing that story told as well. It was just like really, really fucking great. And although he sort of like, you know, he downplays a lot of his role as Obi-Wan Kenobi, I really, really liked Alec Guinness's portrayal as Obi-Wan, as sort of like an old man, and I find it quite sorry, a bit of a brain fart there. I love Alec Guinness's portrayal. I loved the portrayal that was done in the Clone Wars. I love sort of like Ewan McGregor's portrayal of it the most, because A, you could tell he was a fan of Star Wars, and B, I love the fact that he went into the role of sort of like going, okay, I'm going to take this role. I'm going to sort of like look at it as basically portraying myself as a young Alec Guinness. And I love that. I love that kind of sort of like that detail work that goes into his portrayal as Obi-Wan. And as I say, Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series that's going to be coming at some point next year. Fucking great. Give it to me.
Yeah.
Give it to me. So yeah, it's technically your second pick, Apollo. Do you have anything that you really want to add on to?
Obi-Wan, he's that great smart ass character you love, and like especially in episode 3, it was seeing him be a smart ass to General Grievous the whole time, especially which are, you know, our favorite line. Hello there. You know,
it's something that I always it's literally a line that I've always sort of like judged people on. You know, sort of like going, if you go hello there and they don't answer with sort of like General Kenobi, I'm sort of like,
we can't be friends.
Yeah.
Sort of like we can be acquaintances, but in terms of sort of like real friends,
yeah. But no, like just Obi-Wan and his progression is just so beautiful. Seeing him go from like the dude needs a beer. Like him and R2 need a beer, because that dude went through a lot, and how he didn't turn to the dark side, I don't know. But then again, he lived by the Jedi code. So
R2 might need an oil can. He can't drink a beer. He might need an oil can.
Something. That dude needs something. But you know, Obi-Wan, like, this dude lost his master. This dude lost the love of his life. He
lost his best friend.
He lost his best friend, and his best friend turned to the dark side. And what else? Oh yeah, he lost the love. But who else did he lose? He lost someone else. We are just discussing this the other day.
I think that's it, actually.
But the dude lost it. Like he wants the. I mean, he also saw the Republic.
Basically,
yeah. Like he saw everything.
Just basically lost.
He watched.
Just lost everything that was sort of like. Yeah. And the fact that he sort of had like such a strong will to, as you say, Apollo, not turn to the dark side, and you know, keep the faith and keep the hope that, you know, well, as it's referenced so many times, just sort of like, having that belief that a new hope is on the horizon, I think is what is so endearing to him as a character.
And then, how can I say, like, he's always been calm, but he was, how can I say it? It's not that he wasn't quick to react, but like, I don't know how to explain it exactly, but seeing him go from the way he was in the prequels to Rebels, where he's just like absolutely just calm, collected.
And beat Darth Maul as well. He basically just one sliced Maul in half.
That's the thing as well. Like he's a great learner.
Mm-hmm.
He's an absolute great learner because sort of like you not to get too bogged down into spoilery territory, but if you look at that sort of like that fight, Maul is basically he's so wrapped up in
killing Kenobi,
seeking revenge for all these years of torment that Obi-Wan has supposedly wreaked upon him. That he's going to kill him the same way that he killed his master, and Obi-Wan being this, the cool, calm,
Maul's downfall.
And sort of like there's sort of like an element that Obi-Wan realizes that Maul wants to do, so he provokes him into going that way, which ultimately leads to Maul's downfall. It's just it's great. It's great little bits that here and there. Like not just with Obi-Wan, but with any of the characters that come on this list, that just make them so much more likable and so much more endearing. I feel.
It's I think I had to put him. I put it like you saw my list, and he's someone I love to hate. It's like I hate this dude. I want him to die already, but like he wasn't like he's always a threat because he wants to kill a character we love, but he was just someone that was a pawn in someone else's game, and I'd be around wanting him dead after he killed Duchess Satine as well, because after he killed her, but I was like. The dude had so much character development, from him going crazy to him seeking revenge, being the empire of an organization, and then to his death.
We'll get into it because I don't want to get too far ahead, because that is a character that is definitely on one of our lists.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll move on to what is essentially our second pick, or in terms of Apollo, this will technically be his third, because it's a similar pick to the one that Wolf has had, and I'm guessing it's discounting The Last Jedi. It's basically Luke Skywalker.
Wolf, you go ahead, bro.
All right, Luke Skywalker in the original trilogy, he was built on as nothing but a farm boy until Episode 5 and 6, where Episode 5 he was basically a Padawan, and he lost the fight to his father. Spoiler alert, by the way, anyone that hasn't watched it. But then he redeems his father in Episode 6, which actually built up the character even more, in my opinion. And then through Legends, which I'm going to go through Legends, screw the canon bit. Just throw him in the trash. Through Legends, he's gotten stronger and stronger and has trained more Jedi in his time with the second founding of the Order during the New Republic era. That's why I like him, because he's such a strong-willed character. For doing that.
And I think that would be like a really interesting arc to sort of go on. I mean, like The Mandalorian's already done sort of bits and pieces of that, bridging the gap between Episode 6 and Episode 7, and it looks as if we're with the projects that they've got coming up, that there will be subsequent stories being told of that particular era, because it's, you know, there's stuff that that is hinted at but not outright said, that, you know, there's potential there for some like really darn good fucking Star Wars.
Yes,
really good Star Wars. If the Mandalorian is anything to go by, then
we have a lot.
Yeah. I'm just hoping they bring more Legends lore and start kicking out the current, you know, episode 7, 8, and 9 lore.
It's not going anywhere, bro. So
no, I think as much as they want to,
it's a mistake.
As much as they probably want to retcon it, there's no point in retconning it. You know, it's one of those things of just sort of like, it happened. It wasn't good, but, you know, if there's anyone that I'd really trust with trying to make that's, you know, trying to make chicken salad out of chicken shit, it would definitely be Dave Filoni. And, you know, a majority of these sort of like these new age projects, they're with basically him at the helm.
So like, another thing with these sequels, I was like, regardless if we love it or not, there are people who love it, and like, it's a new generation of Star Wars fans, and just like us, we wouldn't want anyone being like, take away the prequels, take away the original trilogy because it doesn't fit with our views, or we don't like the way it is, so they should just cancel it.
Well,
that's
Kathleen Kennedy thinks that way, though.
Yeah, Kathleen Kennedy does think that way, because she does hate the original and prequel fans, and it's a slap in the face to us, and she gave us a slap in the face with the sequels. But no, like, I wouldn't want to take away a new generation of Star Wars fans what they've grown up to watch, because this may be what they grow up to watch. So I wouldn't want to take that away from them. It's not fair, and it's not fair to us if they took away something of ours.
That's
but
fair.
So going off Luke Skywalker, he's just being a normal dude. He was a whiny brat, and you got to see him grow, which was amazing. But he is someone who gives you hope, and he was that hope in the galaxy. And people always get confused when they're like, who is actually the chosen one? The prophecy says one will destroy the Sith, and one says one will bring balance to the Force. So Luke was the balance of the Force, and Anakin was the person who destroyed the Sith. So, but no, like Luke Skywalker, he's just the character that gives you hope. He may have been a bratty kid, but he grew up to be an amazing character by episode 6. And I know in Legends he does this as well. His philosophy is, let's not try to destroy the Sith, and let's not try to destroy the Sith unless we really have to. Let's turn them over. There's good in everyone. So there's always good in everyone, and let's bring him, try to bring him back to the good side. And also just Legends Luke is awesome. Like, from what I've heard, he is very powerful. He is probably the most powerful Jedi ever, and he learned every side of the Force. I mean, he learned both sides of the Force, and even channeled into the dark side. But yeah, there's a lot on Luke on Legends. But it's awesome to see Luke transition from episode 6 to 7. Like, as when you see him in episode 6, he's a lot more calm. And he's obviously very powerful. And as you can see in this fight with Vader, he becomes the most powerful most powerful Force user ever during that fight with Vader.
Yep.
And then obviously seeing him in The Mandalorian. Yeah. That's the most
the old Skywalker hallway scene.
Apollo cry.
Yeah, that. Oh God, it was like, it was giving you hope, and I was just like, no, I was like, when I'm watching it, I'm just like, no way, that's not him. That's not him. No way it can be him. And you're just watching. It's like, no, that can't be him. And it isn't until you see the black glove, you're just like, how they do this? How did they do this? And then once you realize, wow. I was like, I can't believe they did it. And then but I can't wait to see what more is to come with Luke and Grogu.
Yeah, as I say, like I hope with sort of like I keep seeing it. I keep seeing these sort of like these comparisons of sort of like Mark Hamill sort of like in his prime as Luke Skywalker next to Sebastian Shaw. Was it
Sebastian Steele? Sebastian Steele.
Was it Stan?
Sebastian Stan. There we go.
I think Sebastian Stan. Yeah, and Christ Almighty, they look like identical twins. Mm-hmm. They look like identical twins, and you just literally the case of sort of like. Yeah, I mean, if you want to recast him, if you want to cast Sebastian Stan as like young Luke Skywalker and sort of like do a series around him, fine by me, absolutely fine by me.
Yeah. Just have Mark Hamill voice him.
It could, but I don't know. Maybe not. All I'm going to say is like the one thing I didn't like about like Luke in that season finale of The Mandalorian is that the CGI, the more you look at it, the more sketchy it comes across. And I'm just sort of like, it's like, okay, I appreciate what. No, it's all right, man. I appreciate what you tried to do. It's just sort of like, could you not have made a better job? It's just sort of like CGI in this day and age. I've seen what good CGI can do, and I mean I hate to say it, young CGI Luke wasn't it. I'm afraid, wasn't it at all.
I don't care. I got to see Luke, so I don't care.
No, I know, and I'm nitpicking, but I'd like to think of myself as a perfectionist in some level. Right, okay. I'm going to move things on to my second pick, and it's a pick that hasn't really been explored too much by one of the animated series. It's a character that is likely to be featured in some of the upcoming projects that are coming up, and if they cast him correctly, people will probably have a better understanding of why I think this character is so awesome. It is Grand Admiral Thrawn. One of the reasons why I'm so high on Rebels as a TV show, probably more than a lot of people are, is the introduction of Grand Admiral Thrawn. Grand Admiral Thrawn, I would argue, is probably one of the best villains that has come along, and I'd argue he's one of the best sort of like villains in Star Wars history.
Yeah,
that's definitely how highly I think. That's how highly I think of this fucking character, because not a lot of it. Like there's certain stereotypical villains. There are the there are the badass villains. There are the villains that are so full of hate and anger that they fucking lash out at everybody. The manipulative villains. Grand Admiral Thrawn is such a tactician, is such a case of sort of like looking at the bigger picture of everything. That like, I mean, it's expanded upon in sort of like in Rebels quite a lot. That there'll be missions that the Phoenix crew go out on, sort of like get little bits and pieces for sort of like building up the Rebel Alliance, and Grand Admiral Thrawn will literally just be the case of, that's okay. Give him a little bit. Let them get their hopes up, because in the grand scheme of things, when we come to sort of like put our plan into full action, it might not destroy everybody. It'll destroy most of sort of like the resistance against us, but whatever's left over, they'll be just like crippled. The morale will just be crippled. They'll want to just sort of like down tools immediately, just sort of like give up on like all the hopes and all this rigmarole. I love it. I love him, and he's such a great character when it comes for sort of like God damn it, you're a bastard. You're an evil son of a gun. You know, you're part of the Galactic Empire, but by God, you're charming. You're such a charming. You're such a charming bugger. It's like, it's like so slick and so smooth that you just sort of like, oh, it's like it's a shame you're booked to be a bad guy because I love him so much. I love him so much as a character. And I think it's quite unique that he's one of very few characters, like particularly in sort of like, you know, we talk about like Legends, like it's expanded upon in Legends, that he's one of very few people that is able to get under Darth Vader's skin. Darth Vader, the fucking most menacing guy in the fucking galaxy that isn't named Palpatine, and he's somehow able to get under Darth Vader's skin. And just sort of like, you know how to push his buttons to a certain extent. I find it so fascinating. I find it so fascinating as a character. As I say, he's really fucking good. And you know, I'm hoping that he's done justice when he pops up in the Ahsoka series. As I say, he's one of my favorite aspects when it came to Rebels. That's why I rate Rebels so freaking highly. And I feel if they get it right, they've got a character that will be lauded over even more than it's already lauded over at the moment.
Yeah.
Personally, he's lauded. He's in Legends. Legends lore, he's lauded a lot more in Legends than he's in canon, but canon's catching up to it though. So,
well, that's what I'm hoping that the canon. Yeah, this is what I'm hoping the canon will do, is that they'll showcase to like a much larger audience, because you know the thing is with sort of like, you know, Rebels and Clone Wars is like they're fucking awesome. They're fucking great to watch if you're like a Star Wars fan, but if you're sort of like a new fan getting involved with it, like I've seen so many reactors that have sort of like, you know, reacted to the Mandalorian when the name drops come in, and sort of like a majority of them, you can tell they haven't watched Clone Wars, you can tell they haven't watched Rebels, because they don't recognize sort of like the importance. They don't recognize
I heard that about
how great this they don't recognize how great this fucking character is. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Like, I mean, if they were to cast fucking Lars Mikkelsen as a live action Grand Admiral Thrawn, then just give me all of it. Give me all of it, because you know he is the voice. He's the voice of Grand Admiral Thrawn, and you know, could I see anybody being as good as Lars Mikkelsen? Maybe not. But then I didn't think Rosario Dawson would be as great as she was as Ahsoka. So, who knows? Who knows? Yeah. Right, we'll get on to our third lot of picks. We're going to start off with Wolf. And he's gone with a Clone Wars character. Clone Wars character that I actually quite agree should be on one of our lists. He's gone with Captain Rex.
Oh, wow.
I'm actually going with two Clone Wars characters, Clone Troopers.
Yeah,
indeed. Actually, and one of them
indeed, it will be.
Did not expect.
No, I didn't expect when I saw the list, but Apollo's not seen anybody's list bar his own, so that's why it's such a. Yeah. That's why I wanted you to direct message me then, because I wanted there to be a little bit of intrigue.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So go ahead, Wolf.
Captain Rex, he's a great character that they built off of as a clone trooper in the Clone Wars series and Rebels as well. Originally, the concept for Captain Rex was supposed to be Alpha 17, who is a clone ARC trooper in Legends, which I have the 3 Clone Wars Legends books or comic books in my bedroom currently. And yeah, he's supposed to basically be a dark, gritty clone trooper, just like Alpha 17 in the Legends comics. But since they were starting off with the show, they decided to, since there was too many names that had to start with the letter A or some bullshit like that, they said, they decided to rename him as Captain Rex, and then it just built off from there. And every season of the Clone Wars, he's just gotten better and better and better as his arc started building up more and more as a character.
Yeah,
have his own personality.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was like,
I'd
Rex is a great character. Yeah, no
No, you
doubt.
can-
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, no doubt. Captain Rex is a great character, and like it was so awesome just to see. That goes for all the clones. I was just happy they humanized them, because, like I said, people, even myself, people don't view the military as humans. They view us as robots, and so like just to see, because people don't see that human side of you. And when they finally see the human side of you, they're like, "Oh, you're just like the rest of us," and that's reality. That's what the clones were. And Captain Rex he's someone I can relate to. And when it came down to Order 66, he didn't have the guts to kill his own best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, same thing with America. I was like, I hate doing anything when it comes to Americans. It's another story completely. But yeah, continue on. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lewis.
No. It's just to expand on your point. I think that's one of the great things that the Clone Wars did was humanize the clones themselves. Because I mean, if you just sort of like if you look at the prequel trilogy as a whole, the clones aren't really. I mean, like bar Jango and Boba, they're just basically looked at as faceless soldiers.
Yeah.
And I think what the Clone Wars did so well was taking, individual sort of like soldiers, giving them not only names but also characters, and then sort of like expanding on their backstory as well. That you got to the point where sort of like, later into these seasons of Clone Wars, you're actually sort of like you build up better connection with them than you do with sort of like established characters from the prequels that are being showcased in Clone Wars. And I think that's one of the great strengths I think that the Clone Wars show actually has. I mean, not to get too much into spoilery territory, but I think personally for me, where the sort of like the overarching story of the clones and then being like fully humanized is there's a 4-episode arc where they're basically it's like it's not technically Fallujah, but it's a different sort of like planet.
Oh, is it Tyra? No, Tyra?
It's Umbar.
Umbar? Okay.
Yeah.
Umbar, that's it. And it's a great big massive like war battle. It's this great big massive like battle going like back and forth. All these clones, like the main focused force of like the 501st is being led by Anakin, and then out of nowhere, Anakin is summoned back to the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, and his direct replacement is one who is it's another fantastic character that the Clone Wars churned out, Pong Krell. Okay. But he's he's such a fantastic villain in that he doesn't see the clones as being people. He just sees them as being like, how you would look at figures on a spreadsheet. He looks at like every clone as expendable, whereas Rex and sort of like the majority of the 501st, they think differently. There's sort of like, the concept of sort of like leave no man behind, like no man is expendable. And I think that was the point in sort of like Clone Wars, at least for me, was when it was just sort of like, right, okay, this is the sort of character development. This is the sort of like the meaning of sort of like connecting with characters. That's when it like fully established for me. And yeah, Captain Rex is at the heart of it. And he's such an important character. He's such a well-connected character. And he's just written so fucking well. So well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else? No? Or have I covered all the bases?
No, like Captain Rex is, yeah. Oh, I heard he was also in the Battle of Endor.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
Yes, he's you know when they go to the I forget what it's called now. It's basically when the yeah, that's it. And he's the guy with a great big massive white beard.
Yeah. He's the old guy.
Yeah.
So apparently that's Captain Rex. So I was like, all right, I can. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some expansion on like the old original stuff.
Yeah.
Right, so we're going to move on to my third pick and what is technically Apollo's fourth pick, because he decides to be awkward and doesn't want me to sort of like have an easy job of putting banners together. But this is a character near and dear to my heart, Ahsoka Tano. I can't think of any character in Star Wars that has had a bigger comeback from being universally when she was first introduced to being such an amazing not just an amazing character, but also sort of like such a strong fan favorite. Like it's scary. It's very scary, sort of like the progression that she went under, because when she's very first introduced in sort of the Clone Wars film, which was sort of like I don't know whether it was sort of like a pilot or something to bridge the gap before this on the actual TV series themselves, but she's introduced as Anakin's Padawan, and she doesn't really have a lot to do, and there's not much of a character there, and all all this here, there, and everywhere. It's like quite a bit of a dull introduction. And she does take some getting used to in terms of sort of like the Clone Wars, but the journey that she goes on is it's very much sort of like Master, like Padawan, because the journey that she goes on of just sort of not only gaining the experience of sort of like being in all these battles, she not only gets these experience of sort of like being a general in the field, but also the experience of like a Jedi, like a Master does. And then there's like I forget which season it is. I'm pretty sure it's season 5. The end of season 5, with the whole thing of sort of like there's a murder of a Jedi Knight. She gets framed. Basically, all the fucking law enforcement, if you want to call it that, is basically breathing down her neck, and she has to sort of like clear her name, and then ultimately sort of like she's welcomed back with open arms, and sort of like the Jedi are sort of like, oh, we didn't really think that you did this. It's just sort of like a case of we just saw it as a test for you, and she's there just going,
fuck y'all.
Okay, what what kind of fucking test would you have me be framed for a murder I didn't commit? And she ends up not accepting.
I can see the smoke coming from Apollo here.
Because it pisses me off. It's like the Jedi is so incompetent that they did nothing to protect their own.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is what like adds to a character, and that's why sort of like a lot later on in not only Clone Wars but also Rebels, she doesn't associate herself as being a Jedi, because she has all this. Yeah, and that's why she goes on to sort of like the status of being a fulcrum, which is just sort of like an in between. You're not technically a Jedi, you're not technically Sith, but you're sort of like the middle ground of it. And I think it's another example of just sort of like when Star Wars characters are written correctly, and when they're given sort of like such great character development, it's some of the best. It's some of the fucking best, and I just, she's such a great character, and particularly considering where she was when she was first introduced to where she is now, it's It's probably the biggest improvement of any character, I'd argue, in Star Wars 3.
She is like when you talk about female characters in Star Wars, they're like, oh, I don't like Rey because she's a woman. No, Rey was written poorly. Ahsoka Tano. I mean, I didn't grow up watching the Clone Wars, but watching her character develop from the bratty, know-it-all kid to being the calm, strong Jedi she is now is so amazing. And like a lot, like I said, if you watch the Clone Wars from 2008 to now, you basically grew up with her. So, and
you can't see it, but I'm raising my hand right now.
I was like, she is that strong female character that everyone loves. That is written so amazing. Like there's no doubt that how great of a character Ahsoka is. And then, God, I feel so bad for her because like she got screwed over by the Jedi.
Yeah.
And she thought her master was dead. And then seeing that fight, when she realizes who her master really is, God, that
as
fight,
I say, just sort of like a lot like Master like Padawan. Yeah, that like Master like Padawan. So much sort of like the tragedy aspects for both of them is so similar. It's similar, but not exactly the same in sort of an extent. It's sort of like it's different in a way.
Yeah, because and also
I think
I
think that's what makes her more endearing as well.
And another thing with Ahsoka is like she because Anakin, he had no one. Ahsoka, she turned to Anakin every time. Anytime she needed something, she turned to Anakin, and Anakin was always there for her, but no one was there for Anakin. So if you think of, I was like,
you could argue that Anakin was the equivalent to what Qui-Gon probably could have been had Qui-Gon be the one to train Anakin.
Yeah, most likely.
I could argue, being that sort of like that emotional support, because it's always it's always lauded over the fact that I realize we're getting a little bit off topic, but it's always lauded over the fact of sort of like if Qui-Gon Jinn survived the Duel of the Fates, and he would be the one to train Anakin. Yeah. He would literally be sort of like the emotional support that Anakin was in need of, but that didn't happen. And although Obi-Wan did the best that he possibly could, he
didn't
offer what Anakin truly needed. And I think sort of like with there's been similarities with Ahsoka and Anakin, I think that's where a lot of Ahsoka's character actually grew, because Anakin ended up being that emotional anchor that you could argue he properly needed but didn't get, but is able to offer it to his Padawan.
Yeah. Like I know I think Anakin knew about Ahsoka and that senator's kid, or whoever that kid was, I forgot. The one that was trying to give information to the Mandalorian.
Lux Von-Terry? Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, Lux. Yeah. You think Anakin knew about that?
Yeah, he knew.
You knew?
I would argue, yeah.
I was like, because same thing, and Ahsoka knew about Padme and Anakin, so I'm pretty sure like if she wanted to love someone, he'd be like, all right, just you don't have to say anything. I'm not gonna say anything. Yeah, he's like, just go with your emotion, go with what you feel. Oh yeah. So, and then same thing with her leaving the Jedi Order. They both wanted to leave. One went through with it, one didn't. Yeah. So,
and that's arguably sort of like another catalyst to why Anakin was so easily manipulated, because his emotional support. The next person the only other person that offered that kind of emotional support was Palpatine, and Palpatine used it to his advantage.
Yeah,
which I think we'll get to.
We'll get to it.
It's one of the things I'm very much looking. It's one of the things I'm most looking forward to, sort of like watching back over the old movies and particularly the Clone Wars to see that story expanded upon. Okay, we're going to get into mine and Wolf's fourth pick. With Wolf first, seems as he's been sort of in the background as me and Apollo have been like slowly debating. Need to get you involved in the show somehow, buddy. We're going to go with your number 4 pick. That being Han Solo.
Han Solo, he's had great build up, like every character in Star Wars. But his more is like I'm going to explain this. It's more like a kind of I don't want to be here type of attitude, but even though he's there, he's helping them out, helping the rebellion, Luke and Leia out. During 4, 5, and 6, even though he doesn't want to be there, but he's just there because he knows, because he likes Leia, Leia likes him. That's why he's still there. I think that's the main reason why he's still there.
Possibly.
And the reason why I chose Han as well is because the Solo movie. That movie got so much hate, but it's because it came out after Episode 8 did, which I think that movie is very, very underrated. The Solo movie is very underrated, in my opinion.
I mean,
it's a good movie.
I always remember sort of like being put off from seeing the Solo movie because it was a movie that I wasn't really that bothered in seeing, and 2, it sort of like put the kibosh on because this was around about the time that the rumors were floating around that there would possibly be like an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, and I was just sort of like, okay, Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, let's fucking do it, and then sort of like
the TV show.
Yeah. Well, the Solo movie came out beforehand, and it didn't really perform as well as they wanted it to. So they were just basically putting the kibosh on all these origin movies, and it very much, for me, I sort of like painted the brush of sort of like fucking Solo movie cost me my Obi-Wan Kenobi movie. It's like I'm not freaking watching it, and then I just sort of like I did like a great big massive rewatch of.
Yeah, I just see the Solo movie as very underrated because it came out after Episode 8, which Episode 8 was not the best, and people were like, "Oh, this movie ain't gonna be good either." But it's actually a really good movie. I don't
mind it. Like I don't hate it, but at the same time, I wouldn't. Like I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with it. I don't. But as I say, it still paints me with sort of. I still have the brush painted of just sort of like. I don't think it's that necessary a movie. It doesn't make it bad per se, and it's just my personal opinion that I don't think I don't think it was a necessary movie, but it wasn't too bad. I mean, sort of like I have sort of like a bit more of an appreciation for Rogue One as well. Watching that back as well because I've not seen that since I very first saw it in the cinemas. But yeah, did both those two sort of like origin movies that are out sort of like outside of the actual trilogy movies. They're not too bad. Yeah, they're not too bad.
Yeah. By the way, spoiler alert: Darth Maul's at the end of Solo. By the way.
Yeah, and it was just sort of like a case of, ooh, this is him between the end of Clone Wars when he turns up in Rebels, and it's literally just a case of that gap still hasn't been bridged in terms of sort of like canon. It's like it's been expanded upon in sort of like legends, but in terms of like actual canon itself hasn't been expanded upon, which I find really interesting. Which I'd like to see them do a bit more of.
That's all I gotta say though. So
that's all you got to say. Anything on Han Solo at all, Apollo?
Not really. He's there. He's cool, like he's an original character, but I don't care enough for him.
Fair enough.
He's just
I'm sort of in a similar camp. But I always have sort of like a soft spot for Harrison Ford, and I just think he's when you think Han Solo, you immediately think Harrison Ford, and that's the bare bones of it.
And Indiana Jones.
And Indy as well. Yeah, yeah, very true. Right, so I'm going to get on to my fourth pick. And if you're only a watcher of the movies, you probably think, "Oh, why is this character on your list, Lewis?" Well, I'm going to explain right now. My fourth pick, is Darth Maul.
Okay.
Yeah, as I say, sort of like growing up, like my first introduction to Star Wars was the prequels. Obviously, the first prequel movie was The Phantom Menace. Darth Maul was involved there, and there's a little kid who was sort of like, "Ooh, he's cool," and it was literally just a case of sort of like watching it back before I watched Clone Wars, and it was just a case of, oh, it's a shame he got chopped in half, though, But I think one of the best things that Dave Filoni ever did or has ever done, I'd argue, was be sort of like to bring Maul back. And to sort of like to give him a character arc, because his character arc is so phenomenal. I mean, just to give like a very brief overview. So he didn't actually die when sort of like Obi-Wan made the sort of like the big and he fell down the mine shaft. He survived. He was basically in with all the other trash that was being shipped off from Naboo, and he ended up on like this great big massive trash planet. And so to survive, he like fused himself with like this exo spider skeleton, and basically spent the next like 15 years or whatever going incredibly mad. And then when you pick him up in sort of like the Clone Wars, he is literally fucking batshit insane, just going over his obsession with Obi-Wan Kenobi and wanting to get revenge on him. And so he's sort of like he's not only found, but he's also sort of like in theory rebuilt. And he always has sort of like these little side projects of like gaining some semblance of power, which involves sort of like brain fart again. Which is sort of like him aligning himself with like a bunch of outcast Mandalorian, basically sieging on Mandalore, and basically becoming the ruler of Mandalore, and then like the great siege of Mandalore, which is showcased at the very end of the Clone Wars. And you sort of like you have the interactions between him and Ahsoka, and sort of like the battle that him and Ahsoka have, and the fact that it's sort of like it is in sort of like the animated style, but specifically for that battle they did like motion capture for it, and they got Ray Park in, who was the original Darth Maul, just so fucking cool. And he's sort of like there's obviously, like as we mentioned earlier, there's sort of like a gap between the end of Clone Wars and where he turns up in Rebels, and it's very much sort of like it's very much the same. He's just sort of like out for vengeance on the people who have wronged him. And I think there's such a great he's played so well. He's played so well. Like if you only take him on face value from the Phantom Menace, you just think like, okay, he's a cool faceless goon. But the way he's expanded upon and the way his story is told again throughout Clone Wars, and I think the guy who did the voice for him, Sam Witwer, Whitwer or Whitner?
Sam
Is it Whitwer?
Whitwer.
Yeah. who also did sort of like the voice and the motion capture for Starkiller in the Force Unleashed games, which isn't technically canon. But it's nice to see him getting sort of like another avenue into Star Wars where he's able to showcase his talents, and he gets it so on point. So on point of just sort of like portraying this broken, mentally unstable character. And once again, like a lot of characters inside Star Wars, a lot of his life is portrayed as quite a big tragedy. And he's great. He's great. I've always had a soft spot for Maul, and his sort of like his character arc over Clone Wars and Rebels just sort of like endeared him to me so much more.
Yeah, no, like Darth Maul. Just seeing the two lightsabers, I was like, he actually freaked the shit out of me as a kid. Like I think, like I didn't know what Star Wars was. I think I was like 6 or 7 at the time. And I think I saw him on TV and scared the shit out of me. But no, it's just like, I mean, obviously, in like people who only seen the movies, they're like, oh, Darth Maul is like the coolest character. He was only there for 10 minutes. Yes, so I was like, I didn't give a shit about him. I really didn't, because he was only there for 10 minutes. But when it came down to, watching the Clone Wars and watching Rebels, Clone Wars, just his character, just building onto his character was so amazing. Seeing how he went from the crazy lunatic he is, or no, seeing him go from the calm, sadistic killer he was, and being told you're going to rule the galaxy with me, to going crazy and becoming and just fighting for power, just fighting for power.
Basically becoming a warlord.
Yeah, kind of. Became a warlord, and then went batshit crazy again, which led to his ultimate death. So
yep.
And seeing him in the Siege of Mandalore,
there's so much of the character.
Yeah, seeing him in the Siege of Mandalore was so amazing.
It's fucking great.
God, yeah, it's just like, why are you here? He wanted Anakin, like he wanted Anakin. Yeah.
Sam Witwer. Sam Witwer was a fucking amazing voice actor. Voice actor.
I watched the interview with him and Star Wars Theory, and like his voice is so calm. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Sam Witwer also did the voice for Starkiller in the Force Unleashed series as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is awesome.
You did indeed.
Yeah. And then
anything?
One more thing on Maul.
Anything?
Just his death was so poetic. Just he came there looking for a fight, and he found the fight he wanted. He was very arrogant, but at the end he realized he fucked up, and he was like, you know what? He will avenge us, which is it was just so beautiful.
Hey, at least he didn't get cut in half again this time.
Yeah.
Very true.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Very true. Right. Let's move on to our final picks.
I assume everyone has the same one.
No. This is actually the one category in the favorite characters pick where everybody is different.
Wow.
Everybody is completely different.
Wow.
So I'm going to start off with Wolf once again. And I've got to be honest, this was probably the most surprising pick, I would say, from Wolf. And coincidentally, coincidentally, it is Commander Wolf. Now, this has only just clicked with me just now. Is there any reason, bar his name being pretty much the same as your, not real name, but the name that you go by? Is there anything else behind the? Is there anything else behind the character? Oh, right, okay. I'm just checking. That's all.
Well, in my opinion, he's a badass clone, of course, and And because one of his badass aspects are his eye, is a cybernetic eye, because he lost it to Ventress in a fight where Ventress basically slashed out his eye. And he's been through so much hell as a character in the Clone Wars as well, with the losing of his wolf pack and the Malevolence episode, to rebuilding it and rebuilding it, making it stronger, and changing up the armor, the color scheme of the armor to honor the falling comrades that he's lost in that episode. And it's just, I don't know, he's just a badass character, and seeing him in Rebels and seeing the way they portrayed him also kind of built on to more of his lore in the end as well. So that's all I gotta say, really.
Cool.
As him as a character.
Cool. I mean, I'd completely forgotten about Commander Wolf, really. So I've sort of I looked him up just before we started the episode, and yeah, he features in quite a lot of episodes that I quite enjoy, particularly like very early on in season 1, where I believe it's sort of like the battle against the Malevolence, where they're basically, the Separatists are testing out this great big massive new ship killing weapon, and he's one of the survivors along with Plo Koon that's like escapes in like one of the escape pods. And I never like it was one of those of just sort of like, oh, he was one of the surviving clones in the pod there. Oh, okay.
That's why I mentioned him, because he's been through hell, and that's one of the aspects right there.
And then just sort of like researching it further, was just sort of like, fucking hell, this is another one of the characters. This is another one of the clones that's just sort of like is, well, not technically left by the wayside, but is like looked over too much, because he's been through a lot of shit, a lot of frigging shit.
He wasn't the one that died at the Rebels, right?
No.
Or was that? Or who was that?
No, that was
Gregor.
Yeah, Gregor.
That was Gregor. Yeah.
Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. I'm going to move on to my 5th pick. This isn't technically a character that's turned up in canon just thus far. This is purely from sort of like playing particular games that have centered around this character. I've gone with Jedi Knight or Darth Revan. As I say, a lot of my early experience with Star Wars was playing the Knights of the Old Republic game, or games, I should say. Where it's like, hinted upon that spoiler alert, like you in at least the very first Knights of the Old Republic game, you play out as this just sort of like this unknown soldier that has very deep connections to the Force, and as you expand upon this Force connection and sort of like come across it, expand upon you sort of like your Force powers and that, it's basically revealed that you are in fact Revan, or like Darth Revan, who's like, around this time, like thousands of years before the events of the Skywalker saga even kicks off. You're just basically one of these sort of like feared Sith characters of just sort of like, awesome power. And that always sort of appealed to me. Plus, as well, he just looks fucking cool. He looks really fucking cool. Like the way that, like, no matter if you're talking like Jedi or Darth Revan, like, I mean, one of my wallpapers on my phone is literally just sort of like, well, it's Darth Revan, but he's got like sort of like both lightsabers. Well, yeah, you can, as long as it's permitting.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's my screensaver. And I just think it looks cool. Looks really, really cool. And as I say, it's not like he is technically like sort of canon, but it's canon that hasn't been expanded upon properly. And I would really want to, like, I always remember coming out of the cinema after the end of Rise of Skywalker, And I always remember saying to my mate that I'd gone to see it with, it's like, right, what I would want at this particular moment in time is for them to like take a couple of years off from making any more movies, and I want to see this like stage of the Old Republic expanded upon, because I honestly think there's untapped potential there, really tapped potential. I mean, not just from Revan. You've got the likes of freaking, Bastila, who's seen as, the, I don't know, sort of like the Yoda of their time, sort of like, in terms of Jedi Master. You've got the case of like Malik, who's like part human, part machine. You've got the case of sort of like Treya, who's like this blind, sort of like fulcrum-based character, but leans more to sort of like elements of the Sith. You've got like Darth Nihilus, who's like literally the eater of planets. Like, I mean, it's just sort of like there's so much there. There's so much there to expand upon, and yeah,
Actually,
I'd love to see them do it.
Is that either LucasArts or Lucasfilms or whoever's doing the video games now? Which I guess is Lucasfilm, because that's what they're calling themselves, right?
Yeah, it's
LucasArts.
LucasArts?
LucasArts Gaming or LucasArts Games or something like that.
Okay. They're making a Knights of the Old Republic 3, I think. That's what I've heard. One of the rumors about a few months back.
Yeah. I fucking hope so. I hope so, because if it's anything like the other two games, I mean, I didn't play the Old Republic, the freaking, free to play, like expanded RPG game. I'd play that, but if it's as good as the first two Knights of the Cotas, then I'm down.
Yeah,
I am absolutely down, because I love those games. Absolutely love those games. Right, Apollo, let's get to your final pick, sir. And it's a character that leads off from another character that you were talking about earlier.
Yep.
You've gone with Darth Vader.
Goddamn right. I mean, there's just so much. It just starts off, going from Anakin to Darth Vader. His story is just tragic. Darth Vader, he realizes that Palpatine doesn't give a fuck about him. He just used him, and now he's a machine. Now he's in a machine, and the machine is uncomfortable. Like, Palpatine, he made the machine he made it to where it hurts him because he wants him to feel suffering all the damn time. But Darth Vader, he's just the coolest looking character. And when he walks in the room, it's just like, oh, fuck. Like, when he comes, you're fucked, basically. And as soon as he walks into, and when his officers walk into a room with him, they know, oh, we better act right or else we're fucked too. And he's seen both of those twice. He's seen it in Rogue One, the hallway scene. As soon as he walks in, you're like, oh, like they all piss their pants.
I don't care what anybody says. That is going to take some topping in terms of the most badass scene in all of Star Wars. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
Anybody says.
Well, what about Obi-Wan versus Anakin?
I mean, I mean, there's sort of like there's moments in Star Wars that is, are completely badass. But I mean, if you're talking about sort of like, 60 seconds of sort of like, explain why Star Wars is so awesome. That's what 100%.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. But yeah, no, like just Darth Vader, just his story. It's so complex, and it's done right. And watching him, I need to see him in his prime. I need to see Vader in the early years of the Republic, just destroying Jedi, destroying Rebel cells, stuff like that. I can't wait to see that. But and then just to see him, from episode 4 to 6, and then like I say, he scares the shit out of you, and then once episode 6 comes around, like he sees, like he's kind of closer to like coming into the light side, like he doesn't want to be Darth Vader anymore, as you can see or like when he's talking to his son, he's like, he basically saying like, I don't want to be this, but this is what I am, and there's no going back. And if I choose the other route, I'm dead, because Palpatine is going to kill him anyway. So it's like it's either choose death or it's choose death or nothing. Yeah. So he's fucked either way, and then just seeing him go from the light side. Oh, it's crazy how like he has his moments too, and you see it in Rebels, and you see at the end of Return of the Jedi. Yeah, like like you see that glimpse, like him going back to the light side, and I think. What do y'all think about this? In Rebels, do you think he turned to the light side at the moment? What do y'all think?
No.
I don't think so. I think it's too. I think it's too soon. I would say it's too soon, because the thing that always. The thing which makes the ending of Return of the Jedi that much more impactful for me is the fact that, Anakin, Darth Vader, he's never, when he's needed that sort of like, that emotional support, when he's needed that emotional anchor, it's been few and far between. And, he's throughout Return of the Jedi, it's literally just been a case of, Father, I still see the good in you. I still believe that you are able to. And, he resigns himself to the fact that, he'll never be accepted. He'll never be accepted. He'll never be able to redeem himself until he sees the act of his son willing to sacrifice his own life, because he still believes that there is good in his father. And that ultimately inspires him to do the right thing and just basically sacrifice himself to save his son. And I think that's I think that's what makes that moment so impactful. And I think that could possibly happen with Ahsoka, given that how close that they were together. But I think that there was more sort of like a connection with Luke, being that Luke was his son, and being that sort of like, Luke was willing to go that far. That's, he's sort of like proving to Vader, this is how much my son thinks of me.
Yeah.
So, that's it's very, 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 very awe-inspiring. Very awe-inspiring.
So when I see that scene, well, also like I think at that point it's the final few years of the Empire. So like the Inquisitors, they're done. Like by that point, the Inquisitors are nearly all wiped out. So basically, like their mission is done, and Palpatine, he's almost done with Vader at this point, and Vader knows that too. So both of them are trying to find their way out, basically. And I think at that moment when I think there's moments he does the same, where like he sees that goodness in him, but then he realizes he's still in the suit, and it's like, this is who I am. So, and I'm full of hate and rage, and he continues on. So I guess he was in no way, like I said, it did take his son to be like sacrificing himself basically in order to become good again.
And that's it's such like a bittersweet ending to not only Vader and Anakin's sort of like story. I think it's it's properly beautiful, but at the same time, it's sort of like so bittersweet that it's just sort of like it had to get to this stage to, you know, for Anakin to truly, you know, it's difficult to sort of like put into words, but he's sort of like, you know, when you're watching it and you sort of like have all these, you can see, you can see quite a lot. Can see quite a lot of just. I mean, it's a beautiful, touching way to a really, really great character.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, it's we've been going for just over 2.5 hours, and that is pretty much our top list of our favorite and least favorite characters.
Do we have any honorable mentions? Would y'all say?
Oh, I can think of one that I was teeing with for sort of for my fifth pick, because it was I was toying between either Revan or Din Djarin or the Mandalorian, because Mandalorian has made like quite an impression with me of like being a really solid character, and there being sort of like a lot of character development with it throughout the series. So he came very, very close to making my list. But bar that, I couldn't really think of anybody else, in all honesty.
I think it's Din Djarin right now. Like, Din Djarin is up there as my favorite character, just because he's basically that normal character, and like he's not special. He really isn't. He's a badass fighter, but he's nothing special. And he's badass, and he's a good father.
It's almost sort of like the introduction of the child, as he's known for, or you know, Baby Yoda, or you know, but as he's known as now, Grogu. It's weird how sort of like the introduction of this child sort of like advances his character and sort of like you know, setting this path of just telling a great story, telling a really great story. It's not technically over with. There's still a third season to come from it.
And just the impact of the last episode, it's like a father saying goodbye to his kid, and how that killed me. Like I was already on the verge of tears when Luke came in, but seeing Grogu saying goodbye to Din, that was it. And then just it was even more when Din took off his mask for Grogu so he can see his face, actually see his face. Oh, that was beautiful. And then R2 of course has to come in.
Wolf, did anybody make it to? Do you have any honorable mentions, or anybody that you were toying with for your list at all?
The Mandalorian, like y'all said, and let me get my list of clone troopers here. Hold on. No.
Holy shit! This dude loves his clones.
Yeah.
You hear that goofy ass laugh. You got it yet?
No, I'm just fucking. But there would be a lot more on there if I could.
Oh. But you have an honorable mention, though?
Yeah, like I said, the Mandalorian. He like y'all already covered the bases on him. He's a good character.
Yeah.
And he's been put in certain situations that he's never been in before, but he's come through them a lot, such as Grogu and trying to find the Jedi and fighting against the Dark Troopers and all that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh. God, can you imagine if Luke didn't come to save the day?
Oh my god.
There's no more Mandalorian.
Yeah, it'd just be the crawl of all the actors and cast and all that crew. It's like, yeah, that's the end of it.
God, that would have been terrible.
Just like case of credits roll. Happy ending.
Yeah, instead of it being the end of Mandalorian, it'd be the beginning of the Shit, what was the bad guy's name? What was his name? It was,
Moff Gideon.
Moff Gideon.
Yeah, it would be the beginning of the Moff Gideon series after that.
Indeed. Well, we've been going for fucking hell, nearly 2 hours and 40 minutes, guys. Probably not enough time for sort of like doing anything like Q&A worthy for this episode, so we'll probably leave it until next time. As expanded upon from the end of the first episode, it's a new thing of setting some homework in inverted commas. Yeah, so I set the homework at the end of the last episode of making sort of like top five list of favorite, least favorite characters. We are going to get on to watching some Star Wars and actually just sort of like, so going away, watching, coming back and sort of like reviewing or talking about everything. Yeah. So I queried with the guys of where we were going to start with sort of like our watch and then discussion of said Star Wars canon stuff. And it's more sort of like Apollo and Wolf that have sort of like decided this, but you know, I'm gonna go along with it. Well, not just us, but for all of you guys watching as well. Your homework to do before the next episode comes along will be watching the prequel trilogy. So you're going to be wanting to, well, you're going to want to be going to watch the prequel trilogy. So episode 1, The Phantom Menace, episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. You know, everything, all of that is sort of like available on, you know, Disney Plus. So if you've got Disney Plus, it's all on there for you. If you want to get sort of like ahead of the curve and sort of like expand into different, you know, levels of, you know, Star Wars media, Clone Wars or whatever, you can go right ahead and do that, because we will get to it at some point. We will get to it at some point in the
Okay.
Who's got the feedback going? Who's got their phone too close to the microphone?
I have Apollo.
No.
Thank you.
It's Apollo.
What are you talking about?
I literally did the clunk and away. Oh, fucking hell. Right, we'll start wrapping things up. We'll start wrapping things up. Right, guys. Have you got anything that you want to plug before I go into a great big massive plug tangent of my own?
Nope.
No, I think we covered a lot today. Let's get the outros.
Okay, no worries. Right, so pretty much like all of our channels are available down in the link below. There's also a link down below for the Gamers Lair Discord, which all three of us are members of said community. I can't remember how many members there are last time I checked. It's like in the four.
Let me check.
We're at 432 right now.
432. Right. Okay. It's great. It's a great community to sort of like be joining, guys, and like pretty much at every single like major milestone, there's always a great big massive giveaway that's set up from the owners of the Discord. So there'll be a great big massive sort of like giveaway, like whether it be a gift card or whatever it might be, when we hit 500 members in the Gamers Lair Discord. So if you're not a member already and you're interested, link will be down below in the description. Also down there as well will be a link to the official Gamers Lair YouTube channel, where basically all podcast brain fart again.
It's going to be in one place.
Yeah, it's basically where all podcasts created by the admins and the moderators or anybody in the Gamers Lair community, it's where it will all be the home and place for. There's not only us that do Galactic TableTalk, also our good friends Queen Ice White and Chroma. They very recently, just before we started this podcast, started their own podcast on mental health named Depresso Espresso. Made sure to get that right. I'd make a plug for it, guys. The link for everything sort of like Games Like podcast related is also down in the description below. They've got a new podcast that they're doing on, I believe it's Thursday nights.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's Thursday night, I believe. Second or I think it's second or third, something like that. Something like that. Well, it should be coming up soon.
Soon. I'm pretty certain it's Thursday. They're going to be doing their third episode on Thursday night. So if you make sure that you've subscribed to Queen Ice White's YouTube channel, I think they're looking at doing it about 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. I think remembering the post that Queen put out earlier. And the last thing that I want to really plug that's also down in the description below is a link to the Games Lair merchandise that very recently, within like the last week or two, went on sale. So if you are a member of the Gamers Lair community, or you become a new member of the Gamers Lair community, and you want to rep the Gamers Lair in particular, there's a link basically to the store down below.
We shall be getting ours pretty soon, so there we go.
Yeah, and so there's a couple of items that you can customize yourself, which is a really, really nice feature. So yeah, all links for everything related to what I've plugged, all available down in the description below. Fellas, it's been a pleasure as per usual. Whether we podcast or whether we game, it's always a
yeah. Wolf, you want to say anything before we go?
Nope, I got nothing.
All right, guys. First things first, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe button, click on notifications, be the first one to get that amazing first comment, and come join that Discord. Link will be in the description below. Come check out our merch. All right, guys. Catch y'all later. Thanks for tuning in.
Yes. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. And remember, the Force will be with you always.
Always.